Welcome, everybody, to the Entrepreneur Period podcast, where we talk everything entrepreneurship, from the ups to the downs, the lefts and the rights, whether you're already an entrepreneur, thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or you just want to hear the stories. Hopefully we can bring you value and improve your journey. I'm your host, CJ the Smart Guy, and before you listen, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media platform at CJ the Smart Guy. Welcome back, everybody, to the Entrepreneur Period podcast. I'm your host, CJ the Smart Guy, and in this episode, we'll be talking about my journey as an entrepreneur, my inspirations, my motivations, and how I came about to create both my signature line called Entrepreneur Period and this podcast called Entrepreneur Period. So if you guys ever seen Killer Mike's Trigger Warning, this is going to be similar to that, except my journey isn't just buy black. My journey is to buy from people who support me, which a lot of those people happen to be black. I'm going to begin actually in 2011. There was a line that Nipsey Hussle, who's my favorite artist of all time, he dropped a line that said, "When I do drop an album, they'll be proud to pay." And this came from 2011. It's an outro on TMC, The Marathon Continues. So if you guys really want to understand, how Nipsey Hussle affected my life, I have a podcast episode called The Marathon Continues on my second series called Pivoting Your Business. But essentially when he dropped that, it put an idea in my mind to say, okay, well, when he drops an album, I'll be proud to pay, because I was one of the people who was following his every single move. I was one of those people who was listening to every single song. At that time, he had dropped a couple mixtapes. He had dropped The Marathon and then The Marathon Continues on his own without any type of management or major label backing it. And so what he's saying is when he drops an album, the people that, he helped motivate will be proud to pay. And so for me, that was like, okay, well, when you do drop an album, I'm going to go ahead and support, because you're right. I've been listening to your music for free this entire time, and I've been getting a lot of different gems out of it. It's helped me out in life, but I've never spent a dollar with you. I've never spent a dime, not a penny, even though you've been helping me out. I've spent more on the corner market to buy some fruit snacks than I have to the guy who gave me game through songs and through interviews. And so it was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and support when that time comes about. In 2013, he came out with his mixtape called Crenshaw. So this is 2 years later, but that one line resonated with me. And so in 2013, he drops Crenshaw. He sells it for $100. Now, at the time, I'm working for the railroad. I had just started the railroad, so I actually didn't have $100 to come up with for that mixtape. I wanted to really bad, but I didn't have the $100. What he did was he said, okay, well, you can buy it for $100 with the physical copy. You can spend $10 on the digital copy, or you could download for free from DatPiff. And so I downloaded on DatPiff for free. But then when he had his concert, he came about to Houston, Texas at Warehouse Live. I think that was like February of 2014. So I made that 4-hour drive from Dallas all the way down to Houston to go check it out. I spent $100. And then on top of that, I bought a beanie. And when I bought that beanie, that was really my introduction to buying from people who support me. And I think that's very significant, because I think a lot of times we have friends, we have family members that have businesses, and, we tend to think that they're trying to get up on us and we don't want to spend our money with them. There's some type of friction. And I know for sure 100% that I felt the same way, because I'm like, man, you from LA, I'm from LA, and you just trying to get my money. And there's like this animosity, and you don't know where it comes from, but it's there. And I didn't quite understand why I felt that way, but it was difficult for me to spend money on somebody that looked like me. I think about, when I was in college, I had these Armani glasses and they cost $150, and I bought them, and were they worth $150? No. And I lost them within a week. And in my mind, I was like, you know what? I can't take a loss like that. So I'm going to go buy those same glasses again for another $150, and I'm going to wear them. So I bought some glasses, the same exact ones, bought them for another $150. And within another week, I lost those also. So I had spent over $300 for a pair of glasses that lasted me less than a month combined. And here I am debating about whether I should spend, $20 on this beanie from somebody who's been inspiring me and motivating me for some years now, since 2008. And when you really put that into perspective, it's like, okay, well, so where does your money go? Is it going towards the people who inspire you, or is it going towards, things that you feel like are going to make you look cool, or make you look like, you're somebody that you're really not. And what do you really value? And so that was my first introduction to that. And so I wound up buying that beanie so that when I went to the concert, I got my Crenshaw beanie. I'm at the Crenshaw concert. It feels really cool. And so that was my first introduction to it. 2014, he came out with Mailbox Money. And this is where he starts talking about business models and how, the internet has changed things from buying CDs to streaming. And so when you think about that $100 mixtape, what that really did was it said, okay, well, instead of me going through a major record label to buy the CD, I'm going to, sell it directly to my fans. I'm going to sell only 1,000 copies and my fans are going to buy it directly. I believe I have 1,000 fans who will buy it for $100. That's $100,000, worth of profit basically, because there's nobody else taking it. You own it. He owned his masters. You own all of your streaming rights, your copyrights, and things of that nature. So when I create this podcast, I own my podcast. If somebody wants to use it, they have to pay me. If they use my voice, if they take a piece of this, they have to pay me. That's part of the copyright process. Could I work for a media company? Yes. Could I work for CNN? Could I work for Fox News? Can I work for these big media companies? Yeah, I could, and they can pay me a salary. But do I own my rights? Are they going to control my narrative? Are they going to say, well, you can't say this. Please don't say this. We want you to have this type of agenda. And so hearing him talk about owning your masters or owning the rights to your music, it really put, a big like nugget of knowledge into my head, because I'm like, okay, well, I want to make sure I own everything about my process. As the mixtape is playing, you realize he's giving interviews in his music. And so he's giving you lots of knowledge through the music. And he wound up selling Mailbox Money for $1,000. Now, I never was even trying to cop that. I wasn't about to spend $1,000 on a mixtape. That wasn't my thing. I look now in 2020, hey, it may have been worth it. But at that time, I definitely didn't have $1,000 for a mixtape. I did have the money, but I wasn't going to pay for it. The $100, I didn't have the money, but I would have if I did. And so after getting that beanie, I just started to buy from people who inspired me. I had bought a You Mad Bro, hoodie right before the Super Bowl in 2015, before the Seahawks faced off against the Patriots. I'm still sad they lost. But either way, I had bought a hoodie from Richard Sherman's website, and he was using his fame from football in order to sell his clothes. And, if you know anything about Richard Sherman, he's from Compton, and instead of choosing to go to USC, he chose to go to Stanford so he can get his education. And he's in the NFL. He had already won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. And so for me, this was like, wow, let me support him because I like what he's doing. And so for me to go ahead and put my money where my mouth is, that was a way to show some support. And then he can then use that money I gave him as a way to uplift the community or to do the things that he wants to do. So big shout outs to Richard Sherman for inspiring lots of children to choose education over just sports, but still being able to do sports and be an entrepreneur all at the same time. I always support my Cali people. So big shout outs to Richard Sherman on that. And so we flash forward to July 2015. If you guys have paid attention to me over the course of a few years, that Sandra Bland was a huge inspiration to me. And so when Sandra Bland died in July 2015, I looked at all her videos. I watched all her videos. Her series is called Sandy Speaks. And, I look back and I realized that Nip put all the nuggets of knowledge in terms of how to run your business, but the inspiration to actually go do it didn't come from Nip. It came from Sandra Bland. In her videos, she always talks about establishing your kingdom and your queendom, and it's up to you to actually make it happen. And so when I'm watching her videos, I'm like, okay, it's time to go ahead and do that. And I seen one of my friends. Her name is Nikki 3 times. You can check her out on Instagram, NIKKI, the number 3, TIMES. And she was selling t-shirts. And so, that's my friend. I'm like, wow, like my friends are turning into entrepreneurs. They're making money. And she didn't even think that she was doing anything big, but she was actually inspiring me a lot. I talked to her. She's like, yeah, I'm just trying to make it. It's not a big deal. But I'm looking at it like, wow, you own something. You're making money. You're not getting a check from somebody. You're actually, doing your entrepreneur thing. She was doing fitness and modeling, and through her fitness and modeling, she had her own clothing line. And then she was selling like custom shirts and things of that nature. So I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and buy a Kendrick Lamar shirt. It said cartoons and cereal on it. And she also gave me her vendor of how she got it created and a little bit of her process. And I was grateful for it. So big shout outs to, Nikki 3 times for that. She from Compton. We met at TSU down in Houston, Texas. So I appreciate that. And so from there, after she gave me the vendor, I wound up creating the t-shirts for Sandra Bland. And so if you guys see on my Instagram, I went to the Million Man March in 2015, 10-10-15, and I was wearing my Sandra Bland shirt. I wound up going to the campus of Prairie View and create a scholarship in Sandra Bland's name. So, before we go to a break, I want to make sure that you're connecting these dots. Nip had said, when I do drop an album, they'll be proud to pay. And so at that moment, he was giving out his music for free. Just like at that moment, I was giving out my t-shirts for free. But as time goes and you progress and you have bigger business opportunities and you want to take advantage of things, you begin having to charge so that you can have that capital. And so that's when then he dropped his $100 mixtape. And from then, my clothing, originally I was giving out for free because I felt some type of way. I just wanted my message to get across. But then later on, I started charging for my clothing and I created my brand for it. And I want people to really recognize that my brand is trying to uplift the communities, especially for the ones that can no longer speak. The ones who fought for us, like Sandra Bland or Nipsey Hussle. I want my brand to be associated with the people that sacrificed their lives or they dedicated their time while they were alive to help uplift the communities. You can actually check out on my Instagram at CJ the Smart Guy. You can see back in 2015 when I went to the Million Man March, I had my Sandy Speaks shirt on. And I've worn it a couple times since then. So whenever, a video comes on or, some crazy things going in the news, I just remember and I remind myself, look, this is the vision. This is your mission. Continue to uplift people. Continue to financially empower people because that's what my brand represents. Entrepreneur, period. So we'll go ahead and take that break.
Hey, friend. Marketing your business doesn't have to be hard. Most of the time, you're missing out on coins because you don't have a clear strategy or plan to successfully market your business. No worries though, your girl Yaz has got your back. For a limited time, you can download an easy 3-step marketing plan for free. Go to marketingwithyc.com/links to download your free marketing plan today. Again, that's marketingwithyc.com/links, and I can't wait to see you at the top.
So welcome back from the advertising break. We get paid for those commercials. So having commercials inside your podcast is a way to bring in additional revenue. I own the rights to my podcast. And so as my streams go up, some people want to be a part of it. Some people want to advertise on it. And so that's just another line of income you can have on your podcast. So I wanted to make sure I let you guys know that. Thank you for supporting. If you guys want to check out, the advertisements, I customize the advertising. So if it's somebody that I don't want, I won't let them be a part of the advertising. So I'm not going to have any crazy people that I don't agree with, their values don't align with my values to advertise on my podcast. So yeah, so back to my story. The Million Man March happened in October 10, 2015. And, I'm still working for the railroad. I'm working around a bunch of people that, don't look like me. They don't really care about what's going on in the Black community. Understand when Sandra Bland died, that was a huge blow to me. And so when she talks about, you have to make it happen on your own, start your kingdom, I was like, okay, bet. And so I got the shirts from the vendor that Nikki 3 times gave me. I got the shirts made. I created a scholarship at Prairie View, and I went down to DC. And, Farrakhan was speaking, and it was actually a really great event. I'd never seen so many Black people, striving for good. One of the things he said was, buy Black, the financial empowerment. If you buy from a Black vendor and they buy from somebody Black and they buy from somebody Black, the support that you're getting from one another is huge. But if you buy outside of your community, then, that dollar is being lost. And so immediately I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to buy Black. So I started just trying to buy from Black people in everything I did. And, my experience is that there's pros and cons to this, right? The con is that there's lots of great people, but there's lots of opportunists. So when you're there at the Million Man March, there's some people who are trying to sell shirts for like $20, $30, but then the second you wash it, the letters come off. You got people who are ripping people off, black people ripping other black people off. I don't really agree with just buying black because they're black. I don't agree with, I think that's a form of racism, even though we're not the ones in power. I don't think that that's the right thing to do. And I think that actually puts you in a position to fail. However, the black people that do support you, the black people that do inspire you or, motivate you, I highly recommend buying from them. And so, it started off with that beanie back in 2014. And here I am, having my own shirts. I'm not selling them yet. I'm just giving them out. But I realized, okay, well, I need to create everything on my own because I don't really like getting ripped off. That's not my thing. One of the lines that Nipsey said was, "That's really lynch shit. They want us all to beef, but it's enough money in this shit for us all to eat." And what that basically means is we don't need to be ripping each other off. We don't need to be fighting with each other. Red and blue make green. That's something that, the LA gangs came up with. K-Boy back in the day is that Bloods and Crips can work together to make money. And so I feel like, we should all take that same mindset, work together, and continue to press forward. There are plenty of t-shirt vendors around the world. Some make millions, some make a couple dollars, some make billions. And so it's really just about establishing your brand, but you can all have brands and you should be buying from each other. You saw Nip buying, or at least wearing, YG's clothing line 400, and you saw YG wearing Nip's brand, Crenshaw. So that's important that we work together, because at the end of the day, if, united we stand, divided we fall. And I feel like that was a huge moment in my life after I left that Million Man March in 2015, because immediately I was like, okay, I got to figure a way to get off the corporate plantation. That's what Dr. Boyce Watkins calls it when you're working for corporate America and people don't look like you and they don't support you. And so I was like, okay, well, how do I leave this corporate job that they don't care about Sandra Bland at all? Sandra Bland, she had left her job in order to pursue Sandy Speaks, which is the videos that I was watching. And then she took the job at Prairie View, but before she could work at Prairie View, she died. And so I'm like, okay, I wind up leaving BNSF in July 2016, and I began studying for my CPA exam. And through that process, I learned business from point A to point Z in terms of how do you create your product first. And then once you create your product, how do you sell your product? How do you account for your product? And then how do you report that to the IRS? And how do you make sure that your business is fully updated? And so I learned all this from my CPA journey. So you can go and check out my other episode called My CPA Journey. And that's going to be on this, this series as well. If you want to learn more about that, that's going to be for that episode. But I learned the business operations directly from my CPA exam. And so I was like, okay, well, now that I understand what I'm doing, how do I go about doing it? So my first business endeavor was taxes. And so I learned how to do taxes from a guy named Andre Roberts, who he had his enrolled agency already created. And so I learned from him. Once I learned the taxes, I was like, okay, cool. I wound up getting my license in June of 2020, which was really cool. COVID delayed it a little bit, but I got my license. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, let me create my clothing line. So I dropped my pre-sales for my clothing line on my 30th birthday, June 16. Go check it out at cjthesmartguy.com/shop. To check it out, I got my hoodies, I got my t-shirts, I have masks, I got a couple other things on the way, but we'll see when we get there. And so at the end of the day, it all goes back to another line that Nip said on that same TMC mixtape. He said, "So I give away this music and make double back in shows. I 360 myself, then exercise control. iHustle.com, my digital Louis store. Tell them catch up now or find out later. I'm revenge in the form of success to all haters." So let me break this down line for line. So I give away this music. Okay, so he's a rapper. He's a musician. So instead of him trying to sell a bunch of CDs, on a major record label, he was giving away his music for free. Even the Crenshaw and Mailbox Money mixtapes, he gave those away for free. You have to buy the physical version, but the music itself was free. And so what I'm doing now is I'm creating free podcasts. I'm not a rapper, I'm not a musician, but I can verbalize, the different thoughts and, knowledge that I have to you guys. So I give away the podcasts so you guys can educate yourself. And then after he said, I give away the music, he said I make double back in shows. So very soon I will be going out and I will be, going to speaking engagements, whether I talk about cryptocurrency, whether I talk about my process as an entrepreneur, period, whether I talk about, my podcast, whether I talk about my accounting, whatever it is, I'll be giving speaking engagements and I'll be charging for those. So now my podcast become a marketing tool for my speaking engagements. So after he said he doubled back in shows, I 360 myself, then exercise control. So in the music industry, a 360 deal is essentially where they give you your money up front, but then they keep the royalties, they keep the copyrights. And so if you become somebody who gets lots of streams or you get lots of sales, the record label is the one who keeps most of that, and the artist just keeps their upfront money. And as an investor, I know that it's all about the consistent money on the back end. The front money is cool, but it's really the payoff is better if you own it. And so I own my podcast. There's no CNN, there's no Fox News, there's nobody in control of any of the things I say. I control what I want to say. I control everything. I exercise full control over my podcast. And so I think that's really important. And what he talks about next is iHustle.com, my digital Louis store. And so, when you create merchandise, such as I'm doing, entrepreneur, period, that's my signature line. Now that becomes a marketing tool towards both my podcasts as well as towards my speaking engagements, because now people can visually see it. He had the Hustle in the House song video come out and they were all wearing Crenshaw. So I got entrepreneur, period. And if you look at the cover art from my podcast, you see that. And very soon you'll start seeing a whole bunch of people wearing entrepreneur, period. And that's a way to, vertically integrate yourself from creating the podcast to having speaking engagements to having merchandise where people can feel like they're a part of the process, because they are a part of the process. Without you supporting me, then maybe I can't go to my next endeavor. Do I know what my next endeavor is? No, but I know there's going to be one, because I'm going to continue to pace. I'm going to continue to grow, and it's never going to stop. And so, he has his digital Louis store. What he's saying is you can have your clothing line. It doesn't have to be an actual physical store. You can sell it online. And when he says Louis store, the prices are a little higher, but that's because we're trying to work on our next endeavor. There is no major label. There is nobody providing us the upfront money. Therefore, we have to have higher profit margins to continue doing what we're doing. And we definitely understand that not everybody can support, but the ones that can, go ahead and do that, because you should be proud to pay, especially if I've helped you out, learning something. If I've given you some type of gem, you should be a part of the process and, go ahead and support. And then he says, tell him catch up now or find out later, meaning, do it, work hard now, create it on yourself right now, or, go ahead and take that upfront money and think that you're big. But then when, people like me rise up, because we take the longer route, then, you'll find out later that we were right. But either way, you have that choice. And I'm revenge in the form of success to all haters. So if you say, oh, well, I'm not going to spend that type of money on your clothing, I don't really believe in it or anything like that's fine, because once it becomes successful, then I don't have to do anything. Revenge is in God's hands. All I have to do is be great and be successful. And so I think that's really how it goes down at the end is you keep working hard. You stick to your own pace. You don't let other people's thoughts dictate, what you want to do. And so here I am. I had Sandra Bland, who gave me the inspiration, and I had Nipsey Hussle, who gave me the blueprint on how to do it. And so now I got some other things in store, but I'm not going to give you all that. You might have to go to the Pantheon, so that you guys got to pay for that. So I'm CJ the Smart Guy. Stay stacking G's. I'm an entrepreneur, period. I'm out. Deuce. Thank you for joining me on my Entrepreneur, period podcast journey. Hopefully you can apply some of the things that we discussed in your own journey. My goal is to empower you mentally, spiritually, as well as financially. So in order to support me, to support you, I need you to go onto www.cjthesmartguy.com as well as follow me on all platforms such as Twitter, Instagram at CJ the Smart Guy. And remember, stay stacking G's and stack sats. Deuce.